Forgive me, my friend. The way I am, the way you see me in this moment, I was not always like this. You see, my troubles started when I stepped onto my cousin's fishing boat. Yes, that was it. That was the day it all went belly up for me. As the saying goes, the thought of it would bring a tear to my eye, if only I still had the capacity for it. I was in town on holiday visiting my dear uncle, you see. Ferdinand, my uncle's only son, my cousin, always looked down on me for my choice of profession, fancied himself a much manlier sort than I, on account of his being a burly fisherman type, who did burly things alongside burly men. Nothing like the humble trade I chose as a tailor's apprentice in a town far away from our home. Looking back, I guess he felt betrayed by me, his childhood companion. At some point during the trip, as I recall, Ferd made a public bet that I couldn't last a half a day on his boat, said I would lose my lunch within seconds of stepping onto the rickety deck of his well-worn vessel. He was almost right. I hesitated to even touch the railing on his old trawler, for fear of contracting tetanus. The rusty metal bars looked like reddish cheese graters to me. With no choice but to grab something to steady my step, I hurriedly wrapped my hand with an unfortunately fine handkerchief before I reached out for the rail. At that moment I realized I was definitely not cut out for the life of a burly crew member on Ferd's boat, Serenity's Catch. The name was painted in flaky characters on the side of the hull. To make a long story short, my suspicions were entirely accurate. In fact, to this very day, in a way, I regret listening to my prideful heart and taking that series of further steps away from the shore and onto Ferd's boat. I can't say what happened was anyone's fault but God himself, who saw fit to send a freakishly violent storm tearing through the harbor on the day I chose to accept a challenge from my cousin. I did lose my lunch after all, to say the least, when the boat began to rock like crazy, back, forward, and everywhere in between. It was an unpredictably elliptical track of motion that boggled my mind with every tilt, turning the world ever more on its side until I could have sworn my feet were planted in the sky and my head rooted to the ground. One moment I was gripping the rusty handrail for dear life, watching one of Ferd's crewmates spreading himself as wide as he possibly could, straining to keep hold of the large steering wheel. Ferd was nowhere to be seen, although I believe I could hear his voice. He was yelling with a resolve, a confidence that did not match the dire situation, in my opinion. The next moment, I was swallowing cold gulps of salted, fishy water. My clothes felt like lead. The weight of them sapped the energy from my feeble attempts to tread water, as walls of the stuff crashed over my face, endlessly. My ears were full of the cacophony of bubbles, bursting and reforming in my head. My feet danced upon nothing. I believe this happened many years ago, you see, in a whole other part of the ocean. I may not look it, but I've traveled far and seen many things since then. In fact, I'd say my life has become decidedly more interesting than before. The only thing I miss, I have to admit, is a girl I was courting at the time. Alexandria was her name. She was the only girl my age in town that I knew, and she always waited for me. I wonder if she still does. But then again, maybe she's long passed on by now. With the way these eyes see time now, who's to tell how many ages have passed since last I saw her? I do know the boats and ships have changed. I've begun to see ships as big as skyscrapers with flashing lights and raucous music that shakes the water below. But that's neither here nor there. My main concern in the present moment is that I explain to you the change that is coming about. The change in your flesh. You might have noticed already by now. On that day, the day I fell, the first thing I thought was strange was really a subversion of my expectations on drowning. I had always heard it began with a burning in the chest, an impossible pressure in the lungs, extreme panic of the mind as well. Although I was certainly frantic with fear, I felt no such discomfort in that moment. Instead, I had a strange feeling that I was being plucked from the surface of the earth by some great, invisible hand, something full of unknown intent. I felt like the waters swallowed me up faster and more smoothly than they should have, as it was not the first time I ever fell beneath cold waves. I saw the dark silhouette of my cousin's boat shrink to the size of a pea, the still bodies of, I imagine, he and his companions dotted the column of light above me as pressure began to build in my head. Around the edges of my sight, cloudy black fringes crawled in an inward spiral until all I could see was nothing. I twisted and spun endlessly, still gripped with fear, floating in the abyss. It wasn't that I couldn't breathe, but that I felt I was waiting to. I was confused. Why am I alive? I asked myself. But it wasn't me who answered that question. Maybe at this point, you know what I'm talking about. It started when a depressingly low vibrato tickled my chest. I felt it in my ribs, which were suddenly alight with an electric sensation. The tone modulated, traveling throughout my limbs. Each part of me that was touched by the great sound, I found, was then immobilized. I could only turn my head, not that it did me any good. A terrifying pitch struck the bell of my head and froze it in an upward-gazing direction, from which point I could not even move my eyes. Speaking of eyes, I can see a spark of remembrance where yours used to be. Do you recall the song in the sea as I do? No light appeared to confirm my intuitions, but I can tell you for sure, I encountered, there, in the unfathomable deep, the God of this world, the true God. Stop me if I say anything that doesn't sound right to you. I was whisked away forever, like a garment in the wash, helpless and impotent. The water got saltier as I careened through icy streams in the dark. I felt the water permeate everything about me. It was inside and in between every part of my being. I felt it behind my eyes, underneath my fingernails, inside my lungs. I heard of tiny things called molecules that make up everything. If there are such devices, I imagined all mine being penetrated by salt water, and even replaced by it. I became one with the ocean, a specter caught in an unseeable flow. For how long, or how far, I cannot tell you, but it felt like I had been dropped into a river of eternity. After some time, I began to realize there was a pattern to the movements I was subjected to. If there was anything left of my inner ear, it must have strained to tell me I was moving along some sort of curve. A wide one indeed, but a curve nonetheless. For that reason, I deduced, or perhaps I imagined, that I was striding a great circle. When I saw it that way in my mind's eye, it all made sense. I was spinning around something, like a planet orbiting its sun. And, as you know, my sun was there, somewhere, hidden in the black. There was something down there, far away from the bright swells in whose luscious warmth we now bathe, past the blue, beyond the dark. You felt it, didn't you? I know you did, because though you are newly born, we are connected. You will learn what I mean very soon. At some point, my eyes locked onto a particular area of space. Though I could see nothing, my eyes knew where to look, and did so on their own. Regrettably, they met the gaze of something not meant for human eyes to see, even in darkness. I know this because my eyes were the first pain I felt since plunging into the sea. The surfaces of my eyes seemed to peel away, like they would if I plucked them out and put them over a fire. They fizzled and popped until nothing was left of them. I still remember the vibrations in my skull, ashen remains dancing around my sockets before being swept away into the endless currents through which I hurtled. Though the pain was terrific, I saw no harm in losing my eyes, as they had not seen a thing for what felt like a lifetime. The one thing I knew, the only thing I could think of, was the fact that I was no longer myself. I had been stripped down to a mind mysteriously suspended in a measure of dissipated liquid essence. My form was reduced to a gurgling soup of debris, which, against all reason, retained the ability to identify itself in the cold, dark world. I would tell you who I was when I first stepped onto Ferd's boat, but for some reason, despite my good memory, I've forgotten my name. Do you remember your name, friend? If not, no need to worry. I don't think our Lord sees fit to give us names in this strange, fantastic existence as its subjects. After all, whatever plans lie ahead for us, we will accomplish under the banner of the God in the deep. And make no mistake, friend, there are indeed plans. We were made this way, created for some great purpose. Of that, I feel sure. Sensing your current form, I see you have developed nicely. Your flesh has once again taken shape, and your mind has nestled back into place. You will learn to see without your eyes, as we all do. In fact, you will find the deep sight much more informative than the old relic spheres you once relied on. The world around you, all the life, all the noise, provides more light than the sun ever could. And this new light, it never sleeps. See how it splashes and ripples every which way you turn. Speaking of sleep, you may notice that the devil of weariness no longer comes for us. I suppose without eyes one would have no need for the archaic ritual of rest. So we keep moving, always. The Lord sends the currents to take us wherever we are needed. It was the immense will of that being, the one known by all creatures of the water, that called me here to find you, a newborn among our kind, the bone-shaking bellow of God, which moved countless waters to reach my ear. Take my hand, and guide me to the place of your gestation. This is as it was done to me some time ago, has been done to our forebears, and will be done until the end of all things on this planet. I hope you will grow to love and accept your new place in this vast creation, which our Lord made, has ruled in eons past, and will rule again, for it was by that terrible, awesome God's whim that the earth was lifted from its primordial waters, and the very same which will someday bring it back down again. When that day comes, friend, you will rejoice in the gift of your new flesh, knowing that this was the only path. You and I, we were chosen to partake in life eternal. Now go ahead, say something to me. Your voice should be ready by now. After all my droning on, I am sure you've heard enough. Now, speak. Hey there, my friends. It is I, your boy, Mr. X Dreams. I know it's been a while, been very busy, and it's late at night right now. I'm recording this offline. Didn't want to bother anybody with a pesky live stream or anything like that. I hope you enjoyed this original story. I kind of came up with it during a writing prompt challenge that I was doing with my son. We both decided to challenge each other to write a piece about someone falling into water and somehow transforming into an aquatic creature. And this is what I came up with. So I decided to share it with you all. I hope you enjoyed it and found it somewhat interesting. If you did, let me know down in the comments and give the video a like. And if you really want to be extra special, use the code word seaweed in your comment down below so I can see you. Anyway, I hope everything is doing well for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope this message finds you in good health. All is well on my end, as well as could be. I'm just very busy with my current profession. I'm no longer doing the thing I was doing before. I've been traveling a lot, if you saw my Instagram post recently. So just wanted to give you a quick update on my status. And yeah, that's about it. Hope to see you all down in the comments, and next time I have a chance to jump on and record a little story for you all, I will do so. Maybe even we'll do one of the live streams one of these days as well. But hey, that's all I got for you tonight, my friends. Don't forget code word seaweed for this video. Leave it in the comments down below. I'm Mr. X, and may your nights be full of dreams. Later. All right. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, don't forget to like and share. If you made it to the very end, you're exactly the kind of subscriber I'm looking for. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. That way, you can catch the live show and discuss the stories with me. Your input might even appear in my next video. Last thing, if you heard a code word after the story, type it in a comment down below so I know who the real dreamers are. Take care, my friend. Until next time.